your alignment. I just got something come up.
Yeah, I just
So
recorded it. I
the
forgot to hit
11
record.
and what it is to be, just really digging deep, and it's about really listening to your own intuition and connecting with divine and all of that. And so when I saw your email and it was, the fire element, I'm like, did somebody say my name?
That's awesome.
I'm like, oh, I'm not a red-headed Aryan fire person. Maybe I should follow this rabbit.
Totally. I love it.
And also, what's been coming up for me as well is looking for another piece to that is not only going internally, but connecting with people who support your greatest and highest good and vice versa. And that's one of the mantras that because my son just graduated from high school as well. And
yes, congratulations.
Trying to get, people in my life who are of the same sort of cloth and vibration and sort of, it's kind of like this no bullshit attitude,
right.
where I'm like, I only want people in my tribe who are going to really align and share the same mindset, if you will, because I feel like time is of the essence right now, especially being in an Aquarian, the Aquarian energy, and it's a 5 universal year, and it's like just the universe is saying it's time for change, and it's time to really be flexible and really step into. So I've been trying to. So when your email came along, I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to take this.
Yeah, here's a step. Yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
Thank you for doing this. I really, it really is, it's probably a catalyst for everyone as well. And it's great to see people here that I don't know. And
yay. And it's a catalyst for me too, because I feel like I get all these amazing ideas in the shower.
Yes.
And then I move into my regular life. Like, what's for breakfast? Well, you didn't tell me what you wanted, so I didn't buy anything special for you for breakfast. Like, right? That like reality of having kids come back into the house and stuff like that. So I feel like when I can sit down and create like this, it is like such a drive for me and brings me back to my center.
Yeah.
Because I know when I am not creating, which is that fire energy, I'm an earth sign and I'm a Capricorn, and fire creates earth. And so I know for me to be in balance, I need to be doing. And at the same time, like I just posted on my business Facebook page, like, seriously, I'm about to talk about the fire energy and it's raining.
I know, and I gotta close the window. Hang on.
I know. So I was like, okay, that's cool. Nice balance. And it was Samantha was on first, and I was like, can you hear the rain? Like, because I was going to be in the tent, but it is like magnified in the tent, so that's why I'm not out there, because you probably wouldn't be able to hear me. It's amazing. However, that's a time not to be talking to people when it's pouring the rain in the tent. So I'm on my deck, and people might be waking up at some point. I don't know. I've got a family of sleepers. So so welcome to this fire journey. I have tried to pepper it with like today, the one today, the video today is much more I don't know the word for it, like mystical, magical, to the point where my daughter was like, really? That's what we're sending out?
I haven't watched it yet because I'm doing I wanted to do this first and then go in and look at today's.
Totally. And
what's give it away if it's really
if you're in this local Portland, Maine area and getting rain, it's all about stepping into the sunlight. And there's sun coming. I checked the weather.
Okay, good.
It's
I
better
just have to
say
tell
it.
you how much I enjoyed today's
You
video.
did. Oh,
Yeah,
good.
yeah. So, I mean, I was sitting here on my desk and I'm doing the whole thing with you. Yeah, I was like there 100%. So it cracks me up that your daughter's reaction was what it was.
She's just like sun crowning. Like, what even is that? She loves to say that phrase. What even is that? And I'm like, well, you'll figure it out. You'll just have to do it. And she's like, yeah, I'm not. I'm like, no, it'll be fun. So yeah, so she's like my primary editor. Um, and then my idea maven. So we were in the car yesterday. I'm like, I still want to like zhuzh up day 7. And so we started talking and then we figured out
What's
day
your
7.
sign, Sarah?
Capricorn.
She is a Capricorn too?
Oh, no, she's a Leo.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
she's a Leo.
So she's a sun
But
girl.
she is
Yeah,
a sun girl.
fire.
Yep, total fire.
Yeah.
Absolutely fire. Yeah, so I left I have the full moon day set, but I left day 6 and 7 a little open to see if anybody had any questions that I could then address on those 2 days, if I don't get to it today. But yeah, so I figured out day 7 and I'm super excited about it. So anyway, fire. Does anybody first have questions about what they've seen so far? I mean, I know it's only been a couple days. And you guys, if you're up at 8 o'clock on Monday night, join there too. Like, this isn't just a one-shot deal. So I just did 2 different times to reach as many people as I can. We've got a ton of people that are away for the weekend and quite a few actually that are like off grid. So that's lovely. But so yeah, so join in Monday night too if you just want a different flavor to whoever shows up. So that's available. But any questions that have come up so far about fire in general, or like why even think about fire? Because Ava knows from taking my Embrace Your Space class, I can talk for days. I can fill the time.
Can I share my funny fire story that I alluded
Yes.
to in
Yes.
in the Facebook post? Do you
Yes.
mind?
No, I would love
Okay.
that.
So I joined the Sacred Women's Circle. It's called a Loom, and we work our way around the medicine wheel. And when you come into the medicine wheel, and this has all been done virtually, you come into the medicine wheel at fire in the south, and then you work your way around to the east. And your body knows when it's time to move from one element to the next. Well, the entire time that I was in fire, it was 8 weeks before I knew intuitively that it was time for me to move into air. But while I was sitting in fire for 8 weeks, my intestines were exploding for 8 weeks. I was literally releasing, like so much stuff that no longer served me in my life. See, somebody's being affected right now.
My window.
Gotta run. That's how I was for 8 weeks. But
Interesting.
yes, it was really, really fascinating to me. And then all of a sudden, after 8 weeks, it was like it stopped. And I was like, God, I've been processing so much really deep stuff and releasing so many things that were no longer serving me, letting go of relationships. Like there was so much stuff going on during that time, but my body just like stopped releasing after 8 weeks. And I knew it was time for me to shift into the element of air, which I am still sitting in now. So it's really interesting how in this process, we have been embracing the elements as we move around the loom in this sacred space. And so when Sarah said, do you want to join me on this journey through fire? I was like, do I really want to go through that again? But
I
was like, no, it'll be gentle.
Is much gentler. Yes. But anyway, it was a great experience going through that because I could see how just everything, like my psyche, my being, my soul, I don't know what it was, knew that as I was moving into this sacred space with this group of women, that's where I was going to be using fire to release what was no longer serving me. It was a really cool experience.
I mean, as probably annoying as that was to go through, it's so beautiful because our body knows when to let go, but our
Mhm.
mind can often stop ourselves, our energetic and physical body from actually releasing, thus like even constipation, right?
Mhm.
So it's beautiful and like I said, annoying probably in those moments that you went through it, but what a shift for you,
Mhm.
you know?
And and it just really showed me how incredibly wise our bodies are,
Mhm.
because I had no idea moving into the element of fire in the sacred space was going to create that in my body.
Right.
And then, when I was done processing and grieving and releasing and stuff, it was like my body just knew it was time. And when my body knew it was time, I was like, oh, yes, this is the shift. Now I'm in air and now I get to honor my truth because
Yeah.
I've just released all that no longer serves me.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to
Beautiful.
honor my truth. And that's where I'm still at right
You're
now, is
sitting
in
now.
air.
That's beautiful.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, even if you think about digestion, our inner fire, our Agni, it is, think about how you move through difficult times. Oftentimes, it's one of two things. You either end up overeating, thinking you're calming that fire, or under eating because you just can't imagine eating, right? So, oftentimes, when we are in way deep stress, if you even think of grief, you're either soothing yourself with food or you're just so torn up that you forget to eat. Like people, when my dad passed, are you eating? Like that was the one big question. Not are you okay? Are you eating? Are you nourishing yourself? Are you taking care of yourself to move through this? So, digestion, that inner fire beyond us, the emotional aspect of fire creation, but that physical manifestation of fire is our digestive system.
Yeah.
And we need nourishment to keep all of that other emotional, spiritual, energetic fire up. So we need to be really tuning into what we're taking into our body and how our body absorbs it. And I'm not talking about like going keto or getting on a diet or anything like that. That's not it. It's just knowing how our body takes in food. Like I don't, my body just does not digest kale very well. Just doesn't. It gets stuck. Like it's like, ew, I don't really like that leafy green. So
Yeah.
I use more spinach than I do kale. I just know that, right? So that is our physical fire, that digestion that we actually really need to keep healthy. And I had a recent experience where I was going to physical therapy for pelvic floor. Samantha knows this, pelvic floor stuff, trying to help strengthen that pelvic floor. And in the initial intake, we were going over everything I do. And she's like, no wonder you're peeing all the time. You're drinking too much water. I was like, you can, now I know you can die when you drink too much water, right? There's that whole like story out there. But she's like, no, your body for where you are and your height, your weight, and all of that, your whole constitution, you just don't need that much water. And now looking back on it, I'm like, no wonder I felt bloated. No wonder I felt like a slug. Like literally, I was putting out my fire
Fire.
with water that I thought I needed.
Yeah.
And even just that switch in how much water I'm drinking, and also the opposite, right? When we're not drinking enough water, we get so dehydrated that we also like dull our metabolism and dull our digestive system. So finding that balance and knowing what your body needs versus what the outside story of our world is feeding us.
Mhm.
So really coming into your physical body and understanding that. I mean, what a small one sentence. That's all she had to say to me. And it literally changed the coming weeks.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. But that's that balance. So understanding just how fire shows up for us and how we can balance it can just help us in everyday life, in creating and manifesting, in dealing with family and friends, and getting through your work day. All that stuff, like pulling in fire when you need it, just can be so soothing. And earth and water and air and all of the elements. So the elements are really important. Just being outside is really important. And, it doesn't always warrant that, especially if you don't like cold weather. But I still, force myself to even open the door and just breathe in that winter cooling air, that drier air to calm me. So, um, fire can also show up. So, personality wise, emotionally, and energetically, as the person that has really high expectations of themselves, has, just keeps going until they burn out and crash. And that those highs and lows can just really play with all of your systems. So, if you think of the breath as the anchor, that's like if we talk about what do we do when we're feeling like we're setting too high of expectations, or we're feeling anxiety rise up in us, or just feeling stressed, that it's all fire energy. So, oftentimes you'll hear like use your breath as your anchor, and that's all well and good, but sometimes that's just not enough. Sometimes it's just not enough for us. And so, if we can tune into all the elements and start to learn about how they impact our days and moments, then we can turn to fire and be like, okay, so if I'm feeling high stress, I know that's a fire rising up in me. What can I do to calm it? Well, I can get grounded. I can go stand on the earth. I can go lay down on the earth. I can just go take a walk at the beach or in the woods and just be with the earth, allowing that fire within me to become earth. And so, literally thinking about as you're walking, as even you're just stepping outside to touch the grass. So, I'm just going to stand here. And as much as I'm using my breath as an anchor, I'm also imagining this fire like rising up inside of me, coming out, moving down to the earth because it's creating ash. I'm burning all that energy away. Like Ava was burning all of that energy away. And I'm just giving it to the earth and allowing the earth to take all of that, transmute it into nourishing energy, which is what the earth does for us. The earth is our container, our nourishment. And so allowing it to go to the earth. And so using the element of fire as an anchor, or earth, or metal, or air, and learning to really beyond your breath, when your breath just doesn't seem like enough. Your breath is always enough, but our human experience, our ego, it's like I'm taking deep breaths, but I'm starting to hyperventilate. That breath anchor right then is just not enough. So move to nature, even just in your mind's eye. Like even the sun crowning today, I'm like, just if you're not going to go out and do the thing and be the goddess and become the goddess out there, just do it in your mind. So, it's connected, like this energy is connected to our solar plexus. I have my hand on my solar plexus. That's right below your chest, your upper belly, and also intuition, your third eye. So another anchor, just hands here. So using nature and the elements as an anchor is just a really nice extended way to move beyond breath when breath doesn't seem like enough and our ego mind's getting in the way. That's why I lean on the elements. That is what really just helps me push through. I think it was the first day I talked about just staring into the flame of a candle and watching it flicker and just bringing such intense focus and then drawing that fire into your third eye so that you can then create. And it might be you work in an Excel spreadsheet that is like not that exciting because you're at work. And if you can't light a candle at work and because you're back in the office, throw on YouTube. Like literally you can look up fire on YouTube, keep it on silent and just like a little fireplace, like watch it just for 30 seconds, a minute. And that will help you just come back to center using this fire element. Any questions, comments? So water, I talked about this in the beginning too, but water douses fire. So when you're really feeling it, like I said, holding your water bottle and just putting that intention into the water. I mean, you've probably heard, now I just lost the title of that book, but the book that talks about the crystals within the water and the formations within the water that pull in energy. It's sort of like when the kindergartners like pot up all the plants and then they say really nice things to this one and really mean things to this one, and they ignore this one and they blow kisses to that one, and how all those plants respond differently. That is also how water holds energy. Water is connected to our emotions. Water is the moon. And so how lovely that we finish with the full moon, not only shining a light on us, like giving us another opportunity to step into our own divine light, but also to connect us to the emotions and help soothe all that fire energy we've been building up for the last 7 days. So using that water that you're holding to take in the intentions to help you move through it. So if you're mad at your partner and you hold that water and you just are so angry at your partner or your family member, and you just hold that water and you're like, I love you, I love you, I love you. Or you're mad at yourself, right? Because you did something or you said something that you didn't like, or you didn't do something that you thought you were going to do. Holding that water and just be like, I love you, I love you, I love you. And then drinking in that love. That is powerful. You are literally nourishing your body, settling down the actual physical manifestation of fire with water. But the energetic part is taking in all of that emotion, that positive emotion from that glass of water. It's the same when you walk down to the sea and you step in and you just let those waves come right up to your ankles. You just like imagine those waves coming in, taking everything you need to give it, and those waves move out and they take all of that tension, and the wave moves in and brings back all that you need to move forward, and the wave recedes and takes all that tension, and it's just this beautiful ebb and flow. Cycle of the tides, the cycle of the breath. So Heather Ann.
So in your first video, it was interesting because you were talking about how air is not part of the picture, if you will.
Right.
And, being, thinking about astrology or thinking about, the form, and so I had, when I removed that, I was like taking notes and I'm like, okay, so air doesn't really, it's not contained and it's not, but how can that actually play into strengthening or decreasing fire? Because I know you've been talking about the whole water, but then I just started thinking about, well, how can air, because sometimes I feel like the air can help me to transmute some of the fire.
It absolutely can.
Or and I do try and utilize that water element, but I feel like air is also for me, it helps me sort of move either more or less, but I don't know how
Yep.
that would.
Yeah. So air is not included in the feng shui 5 elements.
Right.
Air is included in the system of astrology
Right.
and what other, systems there are that include air. So a couple things. Air is actually a big part of feng shui because feng is wind, shui is water. So wind and water create abundance. So we can't contain air, but air is vital to the movement of all that energy. So wind, in this case, I'm equaling wind to air. So wind moves the wind chimes to move energy. Wind clears us. If you you'll see today in that video, Ava, I don't know if you noticed it, and it was a windy day, as soon as I finished like doing the sun crowning, I just sat back and this gust of wind, I find it very humorous, the timing of it, but it's like, it worked out. So this gust of wind comes at me and literally my hair is like this. And so wind really, so I crown myself, and then wind just takes everything that doesn't serve me away. Wind, air, so important. And so the way air works with fire is it fuels it big time. So think about putting a fire together, right? And what do you do when you're trying to get that light? You blow on it.
Yeah.
Air is vital to the force of fire. It can also be destructive because then it can spread fire, right? If you think of the wildfires out west, or now that one of those initial wildfires last year, the year before, started when wind knocked down a electricity pole. And so now when it gets too windy in like LA County, they will turn off the electricity. They'll go into blackouts because wind, air, is so forceful that it could start another fire and spread that fire. Very important. So when you are trying to get that fire going, there's the element of wood that you need, right? And the element of air. So you need wood to fuel the fire, and you need air to get the fire going. Again, why is it wonderful to step outside? Fresh air. Right? So air is absolutely vital. It just doesn't show up in that cycle that I showed you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like that background of, and intuitively, because I know that you do feng shui in homes, and I've always had this intuition about the movement of energy, and it's sort of like this invisible, I call it air and energy, but the way that I arrange to make sure that there's no jams, I call them in my mind, it's like a jam up, like I intuitively sort of set, and that's what I think of is like air / energy and the movement of how it flows through my downstairs or whatever. So
That's
it's almost
beautiful.
like this
Yes.
background tool that I kind of keep in my pocket. But when we talk about that fire, that's interesting that it is like the background of all the elements.
Well, and in a match needs air to light.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it is a vital force of fire.
Yeah.
That is that ignition point.
Right.
Right? So that opening, and then bam, you have fire.
Yeah.
And yes, so wind and water, feng shui, is all about flow. So creating flow creates abundance. And that's within your home and the way your air or water moves through your home. So one thing you guys can do today is take a walk through your house and imagine yourself as either air, wind, or water, and see where you get like stuck. And then if it's a big piece of furniture, it needs to move. And I'll give you an example. Our dog, he's not out here, but he's got a like a big ottoman that we've had since I think Chris and I got married. I think it was like the first couch set we bought. And that ottoman has become the dog's. And it is in a place that is not feng shui, but he's our dog and we love him. So I just know that when he has left us, that ottoman will leave us too and create more flow in that space. But I notice how energy moves into our family room because it's got to make a little like, it's got to do a little jog to get there because the dog's ottoman.
Yeah.
But, he's king here, so he can block energy for us, I guess. But understanding how things flow through your home, again, wind, water, wind equaling air, is really the study of feng shui. So air is vital. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Any other questions? So in the next few days, we'll talk about the summer solstice tomorrow. And we'll talk about, like, I'll give you a couple options from for little things you can do to celebrate the sun tomorrow. And it can be like in pagan holidays, for lack of a better word, it's not just one day. This is also sort of like the zodiacs and their movement. It's a couple days before and a couple days after. It's same with the moon cycles. Like you start to feel the full moon 2 to 3 days before the full moon and 2 to 3 days after the full moon. And it's the same for our sun signs, our rising signs, and our moon signs. So there's really like this a bigger window. So today, even taking in the sun as it's peeking out now, I see blue sky. Even today, like you can start to celebrate that sun, just be outside. And you know how they call walking, through the forest now, forest bathing?
Yeah.
Which is really just going on a walk in the woods. You can sunbathe today. You can tan if you want, put sunscreen on. That's the mom in me. But like, have a sun bath, stand in the sun.
Yeah.
So we'll go through the summer solstice tomorrow. Then the next day is feng shui big time, because we're going to go straight to the spot in feng shui where fire is the main element. And it's in the work I do, it's the one spot where fire is the main element. And then there's a second spot where other systems call in fire as well. But we're going to go into the area of fame and reputation, where we really are called to be seen. And then we do a little magic. We do some recipes around fire and some cooking, talking about digestion. It's digestion. And then we go into like a super magic day. It's like literally doing magic for yourself. And then we end on the full moon, and we'll have a little full moon. I'll walk you through a little full moon ceremony as well, that also incorporates the bounty of summer. So you're celebrating both the sun and the moon on this full moon. So that's what we're doing.
Sounds great.
Yay. And guys, if you haven't joined the Healing Hut on Facebook, if you're on Facebook, I know everybody isn't. So if you guys have questions, just email me. You can just really reply to those emails. They actually do come straight to me, or replies. But if you are on Facebook, I've got this Facebook group called the Healing Hut that you can pop into, and you can ask questions there. And that Facebook group it's private. So we're creating community. That is a place that these conversations will continue for all the days, just about healing. I just put up a video about creating a portal of divine light in your yard, outside, or even if you're in the city, so that you can actually bring divine light into your being in meditation or when you're outside, and what that looks like. So yeah, so we'll do things like that. Super funky and fun. So, all right, any other questions before we hang up?
No questions, but I want to say
No.
thank you so much. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to be there and
I'm thrilled you're
experience
here,
it.
Colby.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Can I actually show you where I'm at? How do I turn my
Yeah.
camera?
I think you're on the
Uh,
water, right?
I am. I want to show you. I don't know how to turn my camera. Oh, here it is. Maybe this will work.
There's that little thing with the circle.
Oh, there you go. Can you see?
Oh, yes.
That's the beach. And
Oh, wow.
that big dune is new. That used to be 15 parking spots for 50 years. They just did this year. This is my
Oh,
mother had 50 spots. Yeah, so it used to be amazing. It's still, don't get me wrong. It's amazing. And we have a bouncy house because we have a graduation, 3 graduates this year.
Yay,
So we have like little
congratulations.
tented parties. Yeah. Isn't this great though? Maybe I know you're in Maine and I'm in
Gorgeous.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, you're in
But-
Hall, right?
I am. So
Nice.
I mean, eventually maybe, some of you can come visit and we can do like some kind of ceremonial session.
Oh, we
with
totally could. I'm down with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'd
so
love
we moved here from Beverly, and before that we were married in Duxbury. So we know Hall.
Oh, Duxbury. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's beautiful, beautiful. So thank you. I'm just so happy to be here. I'm so
Yay.
happy to be with like-minded people who do these things. I've been doing these things, but just not letting everybody know.
Totally hear you on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Each
Yeah.
feng shui class, I pick something to focus on, and I've done health and wellness, and I have been mostly focused on lately fame and reputation of allowing myself to be seen, because raising kids and them being involved in sports and activities, I was just the mom on the sidelines that had a crystal tucked in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I started to shift jobs and talk about it, and you could see, like, I'd show up the soccer field and you could see like the C part. They're like, oh
Yeah.
no, here she comes.
Yeah.
What is she gonna say today?
Yeah.
What is she gonna say today? So slowly I am pushing myself, and that big push really happened for me
But you
during.
can't really be anything else, Sarah.
No, I can't. I
mean,
literally
you
can't.
get to the point where it's like, I think all of us here have had experiences like that, I would think. And
I'm sure.
I know my journey has brought me to a place of sort of the same, like, I show up at a gathering or of people of like my, athletic friends, and we have like these groups of like, we have our athletic friends and we have our soccer mom friends and we have our, witchy friends, and it's like, I've noticed it more when I was around like my athletic friends, because I was a coached athlete, and so I
Right.
trying to like switch modes, it got to a point where it's like I can still be an athlete and do my my charting and my stuff,
Right.
and my I
And be
can't.
a full-on goddess.
It's really it's exhausting to try and be anything but authentic anymore.
Yeah.
And the more that I sort of go on this journey, the more I feel like I only want, I keep saying I'm pulling people into my life who support my greatest and highest good, and I see them and they see me. There's no time for, the walls are coming down, and it's I don't have time for that judgment piece in my life. And
There.
it's so true. And I think that the more that you try and pigeonhole and dishonor your body and your spirit, that you're doing a disservice to the planet and to yourself. And it just does not align. You're really doing a disservice. Like
Yeah.
the universe would be looking at you saying, what are you doing?
Well, they'd be constantly
This
like
is
they'd be
not what I asked you to
constantly
do.
right. And
Yeah,
you'd be like needled and nudged,
Yeah.
and then that would get
to the
annoying.
point where you are experiencing a rage and you don't understand
Exactly.
why.
Yeah.
And we think that we're doing everything that we should be doing. And this is sort of that disconnect that I've experienced
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
connect
for
and then
sure.
we disconnect. And when we understand what that disconnection is, that's when we're like, oh, this feels horrible in my body and I don't know why. How do I, and when you unravel it and you say, well, Adrienne, you're saying things and not walking in your truth and you're not honoring, this is what it feels like,
Yeah.
in your system, in
Yep.
your body, and
And
your
for
in your
those,
soul.
yeah, and for all those chronic non-sleepers out there,
Yeah.
that sleeplessness is chronic.
Yeah.
If you followed your path, you would sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that is the one thing that I have gained the most out of stepping into my light. Is that when I go to bed every night, I am completely aligned and settled with who I am.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
That is good.
I've got stress in my day, I've got things to do, I've got bills to pay, bad shit happens,
Yeah.
and I have 2 people I know as of yesterday in hospice, and like that crap happens, right? But when I can be aligned to exactly who I am and show up as me completely, I sleep better at night.
And I think you also see people very differently when you do that,
Yeah.
because you learn to honor where that person is,
Mhm.
or where that group of people. Yes, I still need to, I my day-to-day life, I'm finding that that's what I'm doing, and just saying, I see you,
Yeah.
I see you where you are,
Yeah.
and that's exactly where you have to be, but I'm showing up and being me
Mhm.
so I can see you,
Yeah,
and not
and you
trying
end
to,
up being a mirror for them,
yeah, and not trying to be like them because I should, or
or force them to be something that they're not ready to
they're
be
not.
too, right? I
Right.
mean, I feel like that's in my Reiki practice. Reiki is just so gentle,
Mhm.
such a gentle modality
Yeah.
that, we'll just meet right where you are,
Mhm.
and we'll let go of what you're ready to let go of. And down deep, we both know that there's still more to let go of, but you'll know when you're ready, you know?
It's like I say to my son, you know, you take it, it's 25 years putting it in and 25 years taking it out. It's like, you just put it in, you got to get it out.
Yeah.
And watching that process. And
Yeah.
so,
And imagine, and I know someone on here, my friend Ava here, understands the impact that this can have on children. That when you can start to talk to them in this way and align them to nature, which is what Ava does. She's got these spirit camps that are unbelievable. And when you can start to have these conversations early on, like even with Emmeline, having her participate in this, even though she has like one hand up, like, what is that? I can see her softening around it, so having those conversations so that they go off into this world a little softer and in tune to who they are early on, like life change. If I had had this when I was little,
I know.
and my mom is the one that introduced me to Reiki, so it's not like it wasn't present, but she just didn't talk about it. Just, you know, I think my lineage of healing comes from my maternal side, and no one talked about it.
Yeah.
You know, so until I was at a crisis point in my life, and she's like, okay, you should do this. And I was like, oh, okay, mom, you know, and that's literally what changed my trajectory and how I feel physically and energetically. So if we can talk about this stuff in any modality, and not even just Reiki and Feng Shui, in any way, shape, or form that can reach these kids, like imagine what we can create to support them and what they can create for their own lives. Yeah. Magic.
Yeah. I call it like running them through the gauntlet, you know, and just trying to usher, you know, you know, especially boys, you know, you know, it's like the pendulum swings, you know, first it's, you know, all about the girls and what about the girls and what about the girls, and then it kind of swings back, and now it's for me, you know, and my son has 2 half stepsisters, so I've had sort of that blend, but now swinging back to the young men and try, you know, just you know, I feel like I'm like you know, come on, not doing for them, but just trying to go, come on. Ugh, navigating them through to the other side is like, you just, I know hope is not a strategy, but I find myself saying, I really hope that he gets back to the joy and they get back to that place of that joy within themselves, and you know, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I hear you. And
there's no manual, you know, for
there
that.
isn't.
I
And
know
all
that,
we can
you know,
do,
there are a million books we can go out and read, but I'm kind of like, I'm not dissing that, but I feel like I'm sort of in that critical phase where I'm really relying on my own sort of intuition in my head, and trying to connect
in your heart, not your head.
Right, and just letting that and guiding these kids, because ultimately, you know, we want them to just find their joy, and
just
to really understand what that is, and whatever form, and not connecting it to, well, I make a lot of money, and you know, and one of my mantras with Andrew is do what you love and love what you do, and the rest will follow.
It will. It for sure will.
You know, and to really understand what that means. You know, you can say it, but until, you know, they connect with that, you know, what is that? Do what you love and love what you do, and the rest will follow. Oh, eventually they'll see it. You know?
Well, and once they start to experience it, you know, and all we can do is show up to things like this, and all the things like this, and be an example for them and how we move through our days. You know, so it's all, I don't know, it's all available to us. I say that all the time. It is all available to us. We just have to be open to accept it.
Well, thank you for this group, Sarah. It's been gonna be good.
I'm thrilled. Yay. All right, the sun is out. I had a blue jay just pop over and like, what's happening here? What's happening?
All the forest animals.
He was, he was a big one. So go enjoy your day, stand in the sun. It is out and it is beautiful. All right.
Thank you for doing this. This is really
absolutely. And I'll
very
post
cool.
this. I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad you all showed up. I'm always like, okay, who's going to be here? So bye, guys.
Have a great day.
You
Bye.
Bye.